The plasma cannon's charging whine filled the command bridge as Queen Vexara raised her clawed hand. Every officer froze. The human transport vessel hung motionless in space before them, its hull scarred and engines dead. Standard protocol demanded immediate destruction of any ship that dared enter Zephyrian space without authorization. "Fire!" she commanded. The weapons officer's finger hovered over the trigger. 3 seconds. That's all it would take to vaporize the intruding craft and its occupants. The Queen's reputation for merciless efficiency had spread across 17 star systems. No one challenged the Zephyrian Empire. No one survived her judgment. "My Queen," her tactical advisor whispered, voice trembling. "We're detecting life signs." Irrelevant. Vexara's 6 eyes fixed on the view screen. Her crown of living metal shifted, responding to her emotional state. The sharp edges gleamed under the bridge's crimson lighting. Fire. The officer's hand shook. Still he hesitated. "You dare disobey?" The Queen's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. Around her, the bridge crew pressed themselves against their stations. Her bioluminescent markings flared bright orange, a warning every Zephyrian recognized. When the Queen glowed, death followed. Young. Human. Afraid but determined. "Please, I know you can hear me. I have children on board." Vexara's markings flickered. The word triggered memories she'd buried deep, her own nestlings, lost to the human raids 15 cycles ago. The day her world burned. The day her heart turned to stone. "My daughter is sick. We were trying to reach the medical station at Proxima 7. Our engines failed. Please, I'm begging you." The Queen stepped closer to the view screen. Through the transport's damaged hull, she could see movement. Small figures pressed against viewing ports. Young ones, vulnerable, just like her own had been. How many children, she heard herself ask. Her bridge crew exchanged shocked glances. The Queen never asked questions. She simply acted. 12. All under 10 years old. They're refugees from the mining colony attacks. I'm taking them to safety. Vexara's mind raced. Mining colonies. The recent Terran raids that had sparked her people's fury. But something felt wrong. Humans didn't rescue other humans' children. They fought. They conquered. They destroyed. "Scan the vessel," she ordered. "Full biometric analysis." "My Queen," the tactical advisor protested quietly. "Protocol demands. I decide protocol." Her voice cut like a blade. The scans revealed the truth. 12 small life signs clustered in the ship's rear section. 1 adult male at the pilot station. No weapons, no military hardware. Just a broken ship carrying broken lives. The adult? "What's his status?" Her science officer checked readings twice before responding. "Elevated stress hormones. Signs of recent injury." And he paused, confused by the data. "Maternal protective instincts. Impossible. The scanners had to be malfunctioning. Males didn't exhibit protective behaviors toward unrelated offspring. Not in any species she knew. Verify those readings. Confirmed, my Queen. The human is displaying parental protection patterns toward all 12 children." Vexara stared at the transport ship. Her memories stirred again. The human raiders who'd killed her nestlings had shown no mercy, no hesitation. They'd been monsters in her mind for 15 cycles, cold. Calculating. Utterly without compassion. "Open a channel," she commanded. Her communications officer complied, though his confusion was obvious. "Human vessel. Identify yourself." "My name is David Chen. I'm a teacher from Colony 7. When the attack started, I gathered as many children as I could. Their parents didn't make it." The Queen's bioluminescent markings dimmed. A teacher. Protecting children who weren't his own. Risking everything for them. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Because they're just kids. They didn't choose this war. They don't deserve to die for what adults have done. Silence stretched across the bridge. Every Zephyrian stared at their Queen, waiting for her decision. The plasma cannons remained charged. One word from her would end everything. Instead, she found herself asking, "What illness affects your daughter?" "Quantum fever. It's spreading through the group. Without treatment, they'll all be dead in 2 days." Quantum fever. Vexara knew it well. A bioweapon developed during the early war years. It targeted developing nervous systems. Children died slowly, painfully, while adults remained unaffected. Their own nestlings had suffered the same fate. "Lower weapons," she commanded. The bridge erupted in whispered protests. Her second-in-command stepped forward, his own markings flashing warning colors. "My queen, this violates every—" "Prepare docking bay 7. Her voice carried absolute authority. "Medical team to stand by." Full quarantine protocols. She turned from the view screen to face her crew. Her markings blazed brilliant white, a color none of them had ever seen from their queen. "This human protects children that aren't his blood. He risks his life for them." Her voice carried across the silent bridge. "Today I will learn why." The weapon systems powered down with a mechanical sigh. In the distance, the human transport ship hung in space, no longer a target, but something far more dangerous. A question that challenged everything Vexara thought she knew about her enemies. The Queen's private chambers had never hosted a prisoner before. David Chen sat across from her, separated only by a force field and 15 cycles of hatred. He looked exactly as she'd expected, weak flesh covering fragile bones. What she hadn't expected was the way he watched the door, constantly alert for threats to children who weren't even present.
"Your offspring are being treated," she said.
The words felt strange. When had she started thinking of human nestlings as anything other than enemy spawn? "They're not mine," he corrected, "but thank you. Yet you protect them, yes." Vexara leaned forward in her throne. Her crown of living metal shifted, reading her emotions and displaying them through subtle color changes. Confusion registered as deep purple swirls. "Explain this behavior." David's laugh held no humor. "You want me to explain caring about kids? You gain nothing. You risk everything. Your actions serve no survival purpose. Maybe that's the difference between us." The Queen's markings flashed orange. "Humans killed my nestlings. 15 cycles ago, your people burned my world. Your soldiers showed my children no mercy." David's face went pale. "How old were they?" "Young enough to trust that I would protect them." For a long moment, neither spoke. David stared at his hands. When he looked up, his eyes held something Vexara didn't recognize. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "Your apology changes nothing." "No, it doesn't bring them back." "But I'm still sorry." The Queen studied his face for deception. Her biosensors detected no elevated stress patterns, no signs of manipulation. The human genuinely regretted her loss. "Why did you gather these children?" "Because someone had to." David shifted in his restraints. When the attacks started, parents were throwing their kids into any ship that could fly. Some made it to transports. Some didn't. I found 12 of them hiding in the school basement. "And you decided to risk your life for them?" "They were scared, hungry, alone." His voice hardened. "I wasn't going to leave them." Vexara's crown shifted to deep blue, puzzlement mixed with something else. "You could have sent them away, found others to take responsibility. Could you have sent your children away when they needed you?" The question hit like a physical blow. Her markings blazed white-hot before cycling through rapid color changes. Pain, loss, a grief so deep it had transformed into fury. "My children are dead because of humans like you." "No," David said quietly. "Your children are dead because of humans like the ones who killed them, not like me. You are all the same species. Are all Zephyrians the same? Every single one of your people?" Vexara opened her mouth to respond, then stopped. In her council she had advisors who urged caution and others who demanded total war. Scientists who sought knowledge and warriors who craved battle. Not all the same. "Your point is noted," she admitted grudgingly. "Those kids in your medical bay, they've lost everything. Parents, homes, any sense of safety. They're probably terrified right now, wondering if you're going to hurt them." "I do not harm children. I know that now." But they don't. The Queen considered this. Through her neural link to the ship's systems, she could monitor the medical bay. 12 small humans huddled together despite their illness, comforting each other with quiet words and gentle touches, the way nestlings should behave. "What do you propose?" "Let me be with them. They trust me. They'll recover faster if they're not afraid." You could attempt escape." David gestured to the corridor beyond her chambers. "Where exactly would I escape to? This is your ship, your territory. I'm not stupid enough to think I could fight my way past your entire crew. Yet you fought past enemy forces to save those children. That's different." They needed me. Again, that word. Need. It seemed to drive everything this human did. Vexara stood from her throne. Her movement triggered automatic defensive responses from hidden weapon systems, but David didn't flinch. He simply waited. You will be escorted to the medical bay. Any attempted deception or sabotage will result in immediate spacing. Clear? Clear? And human? David Shen, your behavior there will determine whether you all live or die. She gestured to her guards. As they moved to escort David away, he turned back. Your Majesty? May I ask what your children's names were? The Queen's markings went completely still. No one had asked about her nestlings since their death. No one had cared enough to make them real by speaking of them. Zix and Vara, she said softly. They were curious about everything, always asking questions. David nodded. They sound wonderful. I would have liked to have met them. After he was gone, Vexara stood alone in her chambers, staring at the empty chair where the human had sat. For the first time in 15 cycles, someone had seen her children as more than just casualties of war. Someone had made them matter. The medical bay's viewing portal gave Vexara a clear sightline to observe without interference. What she saw challenged every assumption about human nature she'd held for 15 cycles. David moved among the sick children with practiced efficiency. He checked temperatures, adjusted blankets, and spoke in soft tones that somehow reached through their fever-induced delirium. When a small girl cried out in pain, he held her hand until she calmed. When a boy refused medication, David patiently explained why he needed it, never raising his voice or forcing compliance. Fascinating, Dr. Kethwin observed. The Zephyrian medic stood beside his queen, studying the scene with professional interest. His stress hormones should be elevated. Instead, he's exhibiting calming pheromone patterns. Explain. When adults of most species care for unrelated offspring, it triggers anxiety responses. Self-preservation conflicts with protective instincts. But this human, the doctor checked his instruments again. He's as calm as if these were his own genetic progeny. Through the portal, they watched David help a teenage boy sit up to drink water. The child was perhaps 9 standard years old, roughly the same age Vix would have been now. The boy's fever had broken overnight, but he remained weak and frightened. Are the bad people gone? The child asked. You're safe now, David replied. The Queen here has excellent doctors, but she's scary. The other kids say she kills people. Vexara tensed, waiting for David's response. He could easily turn the children against her, plant seeds of fear and hatred that would grow into another generation of enemies. Sometimes important people have to make hard choices, David said instead, but she's taken care of you now. That's what matters. The boy considered this with the serious expression children wore when processing adult complexities. Do you think she's sad too? What makes you ask that? She looks like how I felt when the soldiers came. Mad and sad at the same time. For a moment his eyes met Vexara's through the reinforced glass. Something passed between them. Understanding, perhaps. Recognition? Yes, he told the child. I think she's very sad. Dr. Kethwin made a small sound of surprise. My queen, are you? Vexara realized her markings had shifted to deep blue-green, the color of grief mixed with hope. She forced them back to neutral tones. Continue monitoring, she commanded. But she didn't leave the observation post. Hours passed. The Queen watched as David organized the children's care with military-level precision. The older ones helped feed the younger. Everyone had assigned rest period. No one was left alone during the worst of their fever spikes. It was exactly how she would have organized her own nestling's care. Your Majesty, her aide announced. The High Council demands your presence. They question why enemy humans remain aboard. They may continue questioning. My queen, Admiral Zexthor, specifically requests. Tell Admiral Zexthor that he may make requests when he achieves my rank. Her aide retreated quickly. Through the portal, Vexara saw David helping a young girl who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. She was the sickest of the group, her small body racked with fever. David had barely left her side. She reminds you of someone, Dr. Kethwin observed quietly. She reminds me of vulnerability, the Queen corrected. Vera had the same hair color. Vexara's markings flared bright orange. You overreached, Doctor. Forgive me, my queen. But I treated your nestlings. I remember. In the medical bay, David was singing something soft and wordless. The sick girl's breathing began to ease. Other children gathered around, finding comfort in the gentle melody. He's not what we expected, the doctor continued. None of this is. Humans are deceptive by nature. This one isn't deceiving anyone. My instruments don't lie, my queen. His emotional responses are genuine. Vexara watched David smooth the girl's hair back from her fevered forehead. The gesture was so familiar it made her chest ache. She'd done the same thing for Vara during her final illness. Recommendation? She asked. Medically, they'll recover fully. The quantum fever is responding to treatment. But emotionally, Dr. Kethwain paused. They need stability. Removing their primary caregiver now would cause significant psychological trauma. And strategically, my queen, I'm a doctor, not a military advisor. I value your opinion regardless. Dr. Kethwain considered carefully before responding. These children will remember how they were treated here, whether with kindness or cruelty. They'll carry that memory into adulthood. The question is what kind of memory you want them to have. Through the portal, Vexara saw the young girl open her eyes. She reached up weakly, and David bent down so she could whisper something in his ear. Whatever she said made him smile. Genuinely smile, not the forced expressions adults often gave sick children. The queen turned away from the observation window. She had a decision to make that would ripple through both species for generations to come. But first she needed to understand what she was truly seeing. A door to Vexara's private study sealed with a soft hiss. David Chen sat in the same chair as before, but something fundamental had changed. The queen no longer saw just another human. She saw the man who had held a dying child's hand for 6 straight hours. The girl will live, she announced. Relief flooded David's features. Thank you. All of them? All of them. Vexara settled into her throne, her crown detecting and displaying her emotional complexity through subtle color shifts. Dr. Kethwain believes your presence accelerated their recovery. Kids heal faster when they feel safe. Yes, they do. The queen accessed her personal files through neural interface. Holographic images materialized between them, surveillance footage from 15 cycles ago, her homeworld, her palace, her family. My nestlings were playing in the garden when your ships arrived, she said quietly. They had been arguing over who could climb highest in the crystal trees. Zix always won. Vara always pretended not to care. David watched the footage without speaking. 2 young Zephyrians, their markings bright with joy and competition, scrambling through structures that sang in harmonious tones when touched. The attack lasted 3 hours. When it ended, my world was burning. My family was gone. I held their bodies in that same garden where they'd been laughing. The hologram shifted to show the aftermath. Devastation beyond comprehension. Vexara forced herself to watch David's face as he processed the images. God, he whispered. How old were they? Zix had just entered his 7th cycle. Vara was 5. I'm sorry, I know that doesn't mean anything, but it means more than you know. For 15 cycles, I believed all humans were capable of this, that your species was inherently monstrous. Some of us are. Some of every species are. I've learned this watching you with those children. David leaned forward in his restraints. What will happen to them? That depends on you. I don't understand. Vexara rose and moved to the chamber's large viewport. Beyond the reinforced material, space stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, 2 civilizations continued their bloody war. My council demands I execute you all as enemy combatants. Admiral Zextor believes showing mercy makes me appear weak. Many of my people would agree. And what do you believe? I believe those children didn't choose this war, just as mine didn't choose to die in it. The queen turned back to face David. Her markings had settled into deep purple, decision point colors. I'm offering you a choice, David Chen. I can deliver you and the children to the nearest neutral space station. You'll be free to continue your journey. Or you remain here. Help me understand how a species capable of such cruelty can also produce someone like you. David was quiet for a long time. You want me to stay aboard a Zephyrian warship? As what exactly? As a teacher? You said that was your profession. You want me to teach Zephyrian children? I want you to teach my people that not all humans are monsters.
Just as you've taught me.
The implications hit David visibly. You're talking about changing how your entire species views mine. War shapes perspectives, David, but peace requires new ones. What about the children I'm responsible for? They would remain as well, under my protection, with full medical care and education appropriate to their development. Vexara returned to her throne. Her crown flared bright white as she made her final offer. Your choice will determine whether 12 human children grow up among friends or enemies. Whether they become bridges between our peoples or barriers. Whether my species learns to see yours differently. She paused, letting the weight of decision settle. Choose wisely, David Chen. The future may depend on it. David stared out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere among them waited safety, freedom, and the life he'd planned. Here waited uncertainty, danger, and the chance to change everything. "If I stay," he asked quietly, "can you guarantee their safety?" "I guarantee my protection. Among my people, that is absolute. And if I refuse?" "Then you leave with my blessing and my gratitude for showing me what I'd forgotten about mercy." The silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility and consequence. Finally, David looked back at the Queen of the Zephyrians. "Those kids have already lost everything once. I won't abandon them now." The conference chamber fell silent as Queen Vexara entered. 12 of her most senior advisors rose in unison, their bioluminescent markings displaying carefully controlled emotions. Admiral Zexthor's crimson war patterns dominated the far end of the table, while Council Speaker Yithalon's diplomatic blues occupied the opposite position. "Report on the human prisoners," Admiral Zexthor demanded before the Queen had fully seated herself. "They are recovering." Vexara's tone carried absolute finality. Her crown responded to her mood, displaying cool authority patterns that warned against challenges. "My Queen," Speaker Yithalon interjected smoothly, "the Interstellar Council has made 17 inquiries regarding the human vessel. Our response window closes in 6 standard hours." "We could claim salvage rights," Admiral Zexthor suggested. "Report the vessel destroyed with all hands. No one would question it." "No." The word cut through the chamber like a blade. "My Queen," the Admiral pressed, his markings shifting to frustrated orange, "these humans violated our territorial boundaries. Standard protocol demands I am protocol." Vexara's markings blazed white-hot. "Has my authority become unclear?" "Of course not, my Queen." But the crew grows restless. They demand explanation for why enemy combatants receive medical treatment while our own people die in border skirmishes. Chief Medical Officer Kethwin cleared his throat diplomatically. "If I may, my Queen, the human adult has proven remarkably helpful in pediatric care techniques. His methods have improved recovery times by 37%. Elaborate. Human emotional regulation during medical procedures produces quantifiably better outcomes. The adult specimen, David Chen, demonstrates nurturing behaviors we've never observed in male humans before." Admiral Zexthor's markings flashed dismissive yellow. "Weakness masquerading as strength." "Or strength we failed to recognize," the Queen replied coolly. Trade Minister Vexnina leaned forward. "My Queen, what are your intentions regarding these prisoners? The Council requires guidance for our response to external inquiries." Vexara stood, her movement commanding absolute attention. Through the chamber's central viewport, the human transport ship remained visible, no longer a threat but a symbol of something unprecedented. "I intend to offer the adult human a position aboard this vessel." The explosion of protest was immediate. Admiral Zexthor shot to his feet, his war markings blazing scarlet. "My Queen, this is madness." "An enemy alien? Aboard a military vessel?" "The security implications alone are my responsibility to assess." The Queen's voice dropped to dangerous levels. "Continue your objection, Admiral." The threat was unmistakable. Admiral Zexthor's markings shifted through rapid color changes before settling on reluctant purple acknowledgement. "What position?" Speaker Yithalon asked pragmatically. "Educational consultant. There are things about human psychology and behavior we've misunderstood. This David Chen could help correct those misconceptions." "At what cost?" Trade Minister Vexnina demanded. "Housing enemy aliens requires Council approval." "Feeding them depletes our resources. And the crew will adapt." Vexara's crown flared brilliant white. "As will the Council." "My Queen," Chief Science Officer Zeth Osper spoke for the first time, his analytical nature evident in his steady tone. "I've been monitoring the human's bio readings since his arrival. His stress responses are fascinating. When threatened, his protective instincts toward the juveniles actually intensify rather than diminish." "Explain the significance." "Most species exhibit decreased altruistic behavior under stress. Self-preservation overrides group protection. But this human becomes more protective when endangered, not less. It suggests their species may be more naturally cooperative than our intelligence reports indicated." Admiral Zexthor's markings cycled through frustrated colors. "One anomalous specimen proves nothing about an entire species." "Perhaps not," Vexara agreed. "Which is why extended observation is necessary." Speaker Yithalon raised a diplomatic concern. "The Terran colonial authority has been demanding increased aggression against human settlements. If we're seen harboring human civilians, let them demand." The Queen's voice carried absolute conviction. "I've spent 15 cycles believing every human was my enemy. Today I learned I was wrong. The question is, how many other assumptions about this war are equally flawed? My queen, Admiral Zexthor tried one final protest. The risk to ship security will be managed. Vexara moved to the viewport, her back to the assembly. Dr. Kethwen, how long until the human children complete recovery? 3 days, my queen. Perhaps 2, with continued optimal care. And their nutritional requirements? Compatible with our systems, though they prefer different preparation methods. Trade Minister Vex Nina consulted her displays. Resource impact would be negligible for 13 additional beings. However, the diplomatic implications are mine to handle. The Queen turned back to face her council. Her markings had shifted to deep blue-green. Decision made, consequences accepted. Admiral Zexthor, you will issue quarters for our guests in Section 7, full life support, appropriate security measures. Dr. Kethwen will continue medical supervision until complete recovery. And after recovery? Speaker Yethalon asked. After recovery, we learn whether peace is possible between species that have forgotten how to trust. Vexara moved toward the chamber exit, then paused. One final point, all of you. The human David Chen risked his life to protect children who weren't his genetic offspring. He chose their welfare over his own safety repeatedly. When I asked him why, he said someone had to. Her crown flared with complex emotions. Grief, hope, determination. My own nestlings died because I believed all humans incapable of such compassion. I won't make that mistake again. The door sealed behind her, leaving the council to contemplate a future none of them had imagined possible. The observation deck stretched across the ship's dorsal section, its transparent aluminum providing unobstructed views of space in 3 directions. David Chen stood at the forward viewport, 12 human children gathered around him in various stages of recovery and wonder. Are those really sons? Asked Mira, the youngest at 6 years old. Her fever had broken completely, leaving her curious and energetic. Stars, David corrected gently. Each one could have planets around it. Maybe planets with people like us. Or people like Queen Vexara? This from Jake, 10 years old and the group's self-appointed protector. He'd been suspicious of everything Zephyrian until Dr. Kethwen had patiently explained each medical procedure. Maybe the universe is big enough for all kinds of people. Behind them, Queen Vexara entered silently. Her bioluminescent markings had settled into neutral observation patterns, but David caught her reflection in the viewport. The children hadn't noticed her yet. Mr. Chen, whispered Sarah, age 8. Are we prisoners? David knelt to her level. What do you think? Are you being treated like a prisoner? Sarah considered this with characteristic seriousness. The doctor lady is nice, and the Queen gave us that big room with the soft beds. Prisoners probably don't get soft beds. Plus the food is pretty good, added Marcus, age 9. Different from home food, but good. Then what do you think we are? Guests? Offered Lily, age 7. Guest sounds right to me. Vexara stepped forward, her movement finally alerting the children to her presence. Several instinctively moved closer to David, but none showed the paralyzing fear she'd expected. Your Majesty, David said formally, though his tone remained warm. Children. The Queen's voice was softer than usual. I hope you're feeling better. Much better, thank you, came a chorus of young voices. Mira, with the fearlessness of early childhood, stepped forward. Are you really a queen? I am. Where's your crown? Vexara's crown shifted to amused silver patterns. I'm wearing it. That? Mira pointed at the living metal construct. It doesn't look like a crown. It looks like pretty lights. What do you think a crown should look like? Pointy. And gold. With jewels that sparkle. This crown responds to my emotions, Vexara explained. See? Her markings shifted to warm gold, causing the crown to shimmer with similar tones. The children gasped in delight. Do it again, several called out. For the next several minutes, Queen Vexara found herself cycling through various emotional displays while 12 human children offered commentary and suggestions. When she demonstrated her surprise pattern, rapid purple flashes, 10-year-old Jake asked the question that changed everything. What color does it turn when you're sad? The adults in the room went very still. David watched Vexara carefully, ready to intervene if needed. Deep blue, the Queen answered honestly, with touches of green. Like the ocean at home, Jake said quietly. Before the bad people came, Vexara's markings shifted involuntarily to the exact colors Jake had described. The children recognized sadness when they saw it, regardless of species. "You miss your home too?" Sarah observed with the devastating perceptiveness of childhood. "Yes, very much." "Were there kids there?" Mira asked. "My children live there. Where are they now?" David started to intervene, but Vexara held up one clawed hand. Her markings cycled through grief patterns. Blue, green, deep purple. "They died in the war, a long time ago." The children processed this information with the gravity they reserve for truly important things. Marcus, the oldest at 11, spoke first. "That's why you were going to shoot our ship, because you thought we were like the people who hurt your kids." "Yes, but we're not." "No, you're not." Lily, who had been the sickest during their fever crisis, stepped forward with the determined courage of someone who had survived genuine fear. "I'm sorry bad people hurt your children," she said solemnly. "Thank you, Lily. Are you going to hurt us because bad people who looked like us hurt your kids?" The question hung in the recycled air like a challenge to the universe itself. 12 young faces watched Queen Vexara with the absolute trust children reserve for adults who had proven themselves safe. "No," Vexara said firmly. "I will never hurt children. Any children. Promise?" "I promise." Mira, with the social fearlessness of 6-year-olds, reached out and took the Queen's clawed hand in her small human one. "Then we can be friends," she announced. David watched Vexara stare down at the tiny hand holding hers. Her bioluminescent markings cycled through colors he'd never seen before: wonder, hope, protective warmth, and something that might have been healing. "Yes," the Queen whispered, "we can be friends." Through the observation deck's viewports, space continued its eternal dance, but inside the chamber, something fundamental had shifted. Trust had been offered by those too young to understand its impossibility, and accepted by someone old enough to know its value. For the first time in 15 cycles, Queen Vexara began to believe that peace might be more than just a memory. The War Room's tactical displays showed 17 different battlefronts across 6-star systems. Admiral Zex Thor stood before the central hologram, his markings blazing frustrated crimson as he gestured toward the latest casualty reports. 3 more colonies lost this week, my queen. The humans are pushing deeper into our territory. Our commanders demand retaliation." Queen Vexara studied the data with practiced eyes. Each red marker represented dozens of her people's deaths. Each tactical analysis suggested escalation as the only logical response. Recommendations? Strike their supply depot at Kepler Station. Cut off their advance forces, force them to withdraw, or face starvation. Civilian casualties? Acceptable within military parameters. 6 months ago, Vexara would have approved the strike without hesitation. Today, she found herself thinking of 12 human children who had trusted her with their lives. How many civilians? Admiral Zexthor's markings flickered with impatience. Approximately 4,000, mostly logistics personnel and their families. Children? My queen, with respect, we cannot conduct war based on the welfare of enemy offspring. Cannot? Or choose not to? Our forces need this victory. Morale is suffering. They believe your guests indicate weakness in leadership. The door chimed softly. David Chen entered, carrying data tablets and wearing the formal insignia Vexara had commissioned for his new position. Behind him trailed 3 human children, Mira, Jake, and Sarah, on their way to the ship's educational facilities. "Sorry to interrupt," David said. "The kids wanted to show you their language projects." Admiral Zexthor's markings flashed outraged yellow. "My queen, this is a military briefing." Security protocols clearly state, "The protocols serve me, Admiral, not the reverse." Sarah stepped forward with the fearless confidence she'd developed over 6 months aboard the ship. "Queen Vexara, look, I can write my name in Zephyrian symbols." She held up a tablet displaying carefully crafted glyphs. The writing was childish but accurate, each symbol properly formed according to ancient grammatical rules. "Excellent work, Sarah," Vexara said warmly. Her markings shifted to proud gold patterns. Mira bounced excitedly beside her. "And Jake learned the song for greeting the morning stars. Tell her, Jake." 10-year-old Jake's face reddened slightly, but he began the traditional Zephyrian dawn chant. His pronunciation was imperfect, his young voice unable to reach the proper harmonic frequencies, but the intent was clear and respectful. Admiral Zexthor stared in horrified fascination. "My queen, you're teaching enemy children our sacred traditions?" "I'm teaching children about beauty and meaning," Vexara corrected. "David, how are the others progressing?" "Remarkably well. Lily's mastered basic mathematical concepts in your base 8 system. Marcus is showing real aptitude for stellar navigation, and they're all learning social protocols faster than I expected. Because they're not learning them as foreign customs, the Queen observed. They're learning them as normal parts of life. The children continued chattering about their projects, completely comfortable in the presence of both the terrifying alien queen and her military advisor. To them, this was simply life aboard their ship. "We have to go to engineering class now," Sarah announced. "Chief Kethmel is teaching us about plasma containment." "Plasma containment?" David looked alarmed. "That sounds perfectly safe," Vexara assured him. "Chief Kethmel has 3 nestlings of his own. He understands appropriate educational boundaries." After the children left with their teacher, silence settled over the war room like a heavy blanket. Admiral Zexthor's markings cycled through multiple frustrated patterns before settling on grim purple. "My queen, you cannot seriously consider allowing human children access to our technology."
"Why not?"
"Because they're human. Because we're at war." Because what, Admiral? Because they might learn we're not monsters? Because they might return to their people speaking of Zephyrian kindness? Because they might steal our secrets and use them against us." Vexara gestured toward the door the children had just exited. "Those children have been aboard this ship for 6 months. They've seen our technology, learned our customs, and lived among our crew. Tell me, Admiral, what evidence do you have of sabotage or espionage?" "They're too young for sophisticated intelligence work. They're too young for hatred, too young for prejudice. They see us as people, not enemies. And when they grow up, when they remember everything they've learned here, they'll remember that Zephyrians saved their lives, educated them, treated them with kindness." The Queen moved to stand before the tactical displays. "Tell me, Admiral, what kind of adults do you think they'll become?" For the first time, Admiral Zexthor seemed uncertain. His markings shifted to confused orange. "Aye, they would remember us favorably. And their children? What would they teach their children about our people?" "They would," the Admiral stopped, the implications hitting him fully. "They would teach their children that we could be trusted." "Yes, they would." Vexara called up new tactical displays, not battle plans, but demographic projections, population centers, age distributions, future generation models. "The war has lasted 23 cycles, Admiral. An entire generation of both species has grown up knowing only conflict. But those 12 children represent something different. They represent possibility." "You're talking about changing the war through education?" "I'm talking about ending it through understanding." Admiral Zexthor stared at the displays for a long moment. "The Kepler station strike? Postponed pending further analysis? My queen, the fleet commanders won't understand. They'll see this as weakness. Then we'll have to show them strength of a different kind." Vexara's markings settled into deep, determined blue. "Admiral, I want you to prepare a proposal. What would it take to establish educational exchanges with moderate human settlements?" "Educational exchanges? My queen, that's how we win a war without destroying ourselves in the process." The Queen turned away from the tactical displays toward the viewport, where space stretched endlessly in all directions. "Those children taught me something, Admiral. They taught me that our real enemy was never humanity itself. It was ignorance masquerading as hatred. And if you're wrong, if this fails, then we'll still have shown 12 young people that former enemies can become family. And perhaps that's enough to change the future." Admiral Zexthor's markings cycled through the full spectrum before settling on reluctant purple acknowledgement. "I'll prepare the proposal, my queen."
"Thank you, Admiral."
"And Admiral, include David Chen in the planning sessions. His insights into human psychology will be invaluable." As the Admiral departed, Queen Vexara remained at the viewport, watching the stars. Somewhere among them, 2 civilizations continued their ancient conflict. But aboard her ship, 12 human children were learning Zephyrian lullabies, and the future had begun to change one lesson at a time.